Hi there. Come on in. I'm Fred Trost with lots of great news on tonight's show. Well, one thing here, we have our brand new Outdoor Digest out. On the cover, a buck jumping the fence, maybe one that's going to get away. You might bag one like that, and we're going to tell you how and where tonight. Advice from big buck winners from last year, a great venison recipe, and the great news to me is that this is the first show of our 5th year right here on PBS. So join me right now for a blockbuster deer hunting special. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties, we'll look around again at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in this state of Michigan.
Where are the big bucks, and where are all the deer going to come from deer season this year? That's the question that we want to answer in the next few minutes. We have with us the DNR Regional Wildlife Biologist, Ed Tucker from Southern Michigan.
Fred?
What's the season going to look like?
It's going to be a fantastic year down here this
Fantastic year. Yeah, but
set a record.
It always is in Southern Michigan. Gary Bushell, you're the Regional Wildlife Biologist for the Northern Lower Peninsula. What's the nutshell look like?
Good to excellent, we'll call it, Fred.
Good to excellent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Bob Strong, Upper Peninsula Wildlife Biologist. Moose country now.
Right. Very good season this year.
Very good for deer?
Right.
A lot better than last
A
year?
lot better. Best in the last 5 years.
Okay, let's take a look at the hot spots right now on the map as predicted by the wildlife biologist, Ed Tucker. You've indicated 3 areas have the highest deer population. Those are the areas where most of the deer will be taken?
Well, not most, but there will be a lot of the deer will be taken. Those are heavier areas and be heavy concentrations.
Okay, and the Bs represent areas for the big bucks.
Right, right. We have a record here in the southern Michigan of producing a great number of the big bucks. Probably, I figure 80% probably this year.
80%?
80%.
Are you saying that 8 out of 10 of the people who come to Big Buck Night December 5th will have
Be
taken
from
their
southern
deer?
Michigan.
In southern Michigan. Gary,
Absolutely.
let's take a look at your area in the northern lower peninsula. You say the big bucks are generally going to come from that Sheboygan, Emmett County area.
That's right, Fred.
Does that leave just 2 big bucks then are going to come from northern lower out of the top 10?
Well, I think we could have a big buck or two to be in your contest, but I think Ed's right about southern lower Michigan for the big bucks.
But the big ones will come from the tip, and that band across the middle of the northern lower angling down, that's the highest concentration of deer and the highest concentration of hunters as well.
That's right. We go down from Presque Isle down into Mason, Oceana County, and in that area, although we don't grow the biggest bucks, we do harvest the most bucks, and I would anticipate this year somewhere between 60 and 70,000 bucks would be taken from that area.
Okay, well, let's tip up here to the UP. This is traditional deer country. Years ago, everybody wanted to go to the UP, right, Bob?
Right. Yep.
And we're down to a few areas. Of course, Menominee County right there in the circle has the highest density. A lot of people are going to want to go there. Pack the car on Thursday and head up to Menominee?
Well, unless they've made prior arrangement, I would warn them against going there. We've talked to the county agent, and all the farmers have pretty well filled up. State land north of US 2 in Menominee County, Delta and Iron County are good this year.
And there's availability there on public land.
Right, there's public land there, but stay north of US 2 unless you've made arrangements.
Not a lot of big bucks in that corner of the UP, though, down in the southern corner.
No, traditionally the Lake Superior watershed comes up with the
The
big
Keweenaw
bucks.
Peninsula and that Lake Superior
Right.
area, those are the big bucks. Well, let's take a look at some film now of deer in the winter. In fact, this was taken at Kuzno Wildlife Research Station. Last winter, in fact, the previous 2 winters were not too tough on the deer herd. We had some cold temperatures, but the deer in the UP made it.
Yeah, we had soft snow, and they moved around good until February and come out of it in real good shape.
So the losses were not significant in the UP.
No.
What about the northern lower, Gary?
Pretty much the same, in fact, even more mild. We had 2 extremely mild back-to-back winters, and which were ideal for northern wintering deer.
Was there any starvation at all?
Minimal. Minimal and perhaps associated with an injury or some other type of illness, but for the most part, no impact on that population.
And in southern Michigan, has there ever been any starvation?
Oh, yes, we have
There
had
have been?
some in the past. Oh, yes, in the Fort Custer area, and we've had some on the west side of the state, the Allegan and so forth. That's usually our hardest area that gets hit by the weather, is the west side.
But you're predicting this year a record deer kill in southern Michigan.
Southern Michigan, right, over 50,000 animals.
50,000, wow.
At least 28,000 bucks.
I would guess that the car deer kill rate right now must be astronomical in
It
southern
is.
Michigan.
We're killing an average of 33 deer a day throughout southern Michigan.
Man, that represents also a lot of car damage.
Absolutely.
Are you finding the same thing in the northern lower?
We sure are, especially right now this time of year. Those bucks are quite active, and daily we see highway killed deer on the road.
Bucks in the rut in the UP, Bob?
Oh, yeah, just at the prime this week, archers are reporting they're really moving.
Same in the northern lower?
Pretty much, yes.
That's good news for deer hunters. What about the size of the deer? Are the deer bigger? Of course, southern Michigan deer are
Always big.
always big. Are the deer bigger in the northern lower this year?
I think last year's wild fruit and nut crop was excellent. The winter was excellent, and the available food this year really puts those animals in good shape, and I'm sure there's going to be more weight on them.
What
Yeah.
about antler size, Bob? Is the UP going to have any deer in our big buck night?
Oh, yeah. We're gonna challenge. I think we're gonna reduce that down to 75.
75? You're going to have a couple from the
You bet.
UP.
And a year and a half deer are gonna have 3, 4, 5 points this year instead of
Instead of the spikes?
Right. We're
Well-
seeing that.
Is that the same in the northern lower? Will hunters see more bucks with larger antlers than they have?
I think they'll see, for the most part, larger beam diameters on the yearling deer and more points too.
Good news. And I think for the 85% or so of the hunters who don't get a deer opening day or during this deer season, will they see more deer than they have in recent years?
I don't think there's any question about it in northern and lower Michigan that hunters that even don't shoot a deer are going to see deer. And that's part of the hunt too. I think they'll enjoy that.
That sounds real good. What about the conditions right now in the woods?
They're kind of poor in the UP right now. We've had.
That's the first bad news we've had.
Yeah, I know. But I want to warn hunters that the roads are going to be in bad shape. We've had excessive rain all September and October and early November here, and rivers are high, and the roads are going to be kind of a mess in the back. So be forewarned as far as that.
Gary, in the northern lower?
We have about the same thing. We have a lot more sandier soils that are not in poor condition unless we receive a lot more rain prior to the season. But in areas of heavier soils, the roads are quite rutted and could get worse.
In the southern part of the state, the roads aren't that bad, but most of this is private land hunting,
Yes,
is it not?
well, this is one of the things we want to make sure that we encourage the hunters to contact the landowners ahead of time and not be afraid to help them out during the regular cropping season, and then we'll be able to get on their land.
That should be done this weekend.
Well, it should have been done before,
Should
but
have
it
been done.
wouldn't hurt to do it even now.
What about an opening day prediction? The roads, that's the only bad thing that I can see right now, the wet conditions in the woods. Bob, an opening day prediction. You've seen a lot of opening days. We haven't had what I would consider good opening days in the past 4 years. Every time we've taken our videotape cameras, it's wet, it's rainy.
This year we're going to have 4 inches of snow in most of the UP.
4 inches of
Right,
snow.
right.
Great news. I don't know if we can count on it. Cross our fingers, Gary.
We could have some snow too, not near 4 inches, but we'll have a skiff. It's going to be cold.
Oh, good news.
Dry and cold for us. Excellent.
Gold? Sounds good to me. I'm psyched up. Next Thursday night, we're going to have our Deer Season Eve show, but all of us are going to be in deer camp. Thank the Lord
Right.
for videotape so we can get
Right.
that show on the air. We're going to be up at deer camp. Hope you will too, and maybe you will get a buck that'll make Big Buck Night, or at least our trophy book. Fall isn't the time for big steelhead trout, those lake-run rainbows like this one that are over the master angler minimum of 16 pounds seem to be few in November. Only 4 were reported last year in November. This one at 16.5 pounds, 33 inches long. It made the trophy book for Joe Mannery from Oscoda. He caught it on November 4th on a little Clio in the Au River. By the way, Joe, that's a nice photograph. In the hunting department, Sean Sirk took a big buck near his home in Cement City 2 weeks ago. This is a 14-pointer. It dressed out at 254 pounds. A huge deer with a heavy rack. Look at the thickness of those tines. It's a nice trophy. Now, the rack on this buck isn't as heavy, but it would be in contention for our special award for the longest tine. However, this deer was shot last year on November 22nd, just west of Lansing, but it gives you an idea of the kind of bucks that are roaming the countryside right now. The lucky hunter, Rick Brummett from Lansing, with his trophy 9-point. Steve Cowley from Harper Woods took this buck just 2 weeks ago in the thumb around Port Sanilac. It's a 212-pound field-dressed farm buck that has a 12-point rack. Nice trophy. Here's an unusual pheasant. It's an albino that John Goh from Lennon got on the second day of the season hunting near Lapeer. It's a rooster. It's not totally albino. It has some yellowish feathers, and its eyes aren't pink. They're blue. A unique rooster that John's having mounted. He'll never get another one like that again. And speaking of unusual trophies, John Hedrich from St. Charles took up bow hunting this year, and on his first shot got 16 points. Actually, a 9-point buck and a 7-pointer that had their antlers locked. You'll see John on Big Buck Night with his antlers, and I'm sure a good story. Thanks to Mike Avery from WNEM Channel 5 in Saginaw, who sent us this tape. John Hedrich from St. Charles is our Michigan Outdoors Trophy Hunter of the Week.
Well, it's still up in the air whether or not we're going to have handguns legal for deer hunting in southern Michigan, but Jerry Bartnick says he's ready to allow that bill to run over in the Senate. Now, he's not sure the votes are there, but the Senate does need to pass it if we're going to have it this year. Because there's only a few days left before the deer season, Jerry says, hey, let's take the chances on it and let's run it up the flagpole to see whether they shoot it or salute it. By the way, if they do salute it, you'll know about it next week right here on Michigan Outdoors. Representative Tom Scott had a bunch of the top brass from the DNR Law Enforcement Division over this week to talk about the unclear nature of their tree stand enforcement policy, but he made it crystal clear that he does not agree with their policy and doesn't think it's legally enforceable. But what he does want to do is he wants to clear up the language in the law so that hunters can understand what is legal and what is not legal. He's asked DNR Law Enforcement Division to help him with some language. He expects that to be turned in by Law Enforcement Division to him by the 1st of next year, and at which time he will introduce a bill. Some outdoor reminders this week. Rance Hill, the new chief of Law Enforcement Division, tells me that many hunters in the excitement of things forget to punch their deer tag. Remember, when your deer is down, remember to punch your deer tag. Some other things too, if you go up a little bit early to catch a little bow hunting, your bow must be cased or unstrung. The compounds always have to be cased. The recurves you can unstring. Remember too, firearms must be in a case or in the trunk. Firearms must always be unloaded when they're in a vehicle. And if you like to shine, shining is only legal till 11 p.m. And the key thing to remember about shining is you can never shine with a firearm anywhere in the vehicle.
Now, in my case this season, I'm going to be using my .44 Magnum handgun. Now, I have a Bronco, not a regular car. If I had a regular car, it would have to go in the trunk. I mean, that's by law. A handgun has to go in the trunk. If you don't have a trunk, it has to be encased at the remotest part of the vehicle.
Inaccessible is
Inaccessible.
the wording of the law, and you really want it in some sort of a locked box or case, too.
Right. Handgun laws are complex.
Just to be on the safe side.
Bob, we have some questions for you. Speaking of legal questions here coming up deer season, Rich Kelly from Lansing writes, I know it's illegal to hunt from a vehicle, but I live in the country, and there's a bus out in the field that's been there about 6 or 7 years. The bus has no engine or windows and is starting to decay. Would it be legal to use this bus for a blind?
Well, you might have a couple of problems, a couple legal problems in using it. One is that you can't hunt from a motor vehicle, but the
But it
law
has no
doesn't.
motor in it.
Well, I know, but the law doesn't really specifically say when a motor vehicle does not become a motor vehicle. I don't know how to define that. The other side of this too is you might be hunting up off the ground, so a CO could write you up possibly for hunting from a raised platform.
Make sure the floorboards are rotted out, Rich. If you can stand inside there, I'd say it's going to be okay.
And get your toes on the ground.
Get your toes on the ground, that's right.
Yeah, a letter for you, Fred, from Carrie Noring of Sterling Heights. My brother caught a small fish and put it in a cooler full of water. When he came home, it was still alive. Is it possible that you can put a fish like this in an aquarium?
Well, sure, as long as it's a legal fish, like maybe a bluegill, don't get a bass that's too small or a pike that's too small. But you could try this. The problem is fungus and disease that sometimes happens with fish that you transplant into a home aquarium because the water is different. But contact Don Garling, by the way. We have his address right here in our brand new Outdoor Digest. He's at the MSU Fisheries and Wildlife Department in the Extension Service. This digest, by the way, also has our new form, application entry form for our Hunting and Fishing Awards. Tells how you can be a Stroh's Hunting Award winner with a 10-point buck or better this season. Very simple. If you don't have a digest coming to you already in the mail, make sure you write to us. Address is coming up in just a moment. Before we get to some big buck tips, let's first of all see if you can answer this question in our outdoor quiz.
What is the smallest fish ever caught on hook and line? The smallest fish ever to win a competition was a smelt that weighed 1/16 of an ounce. According to the Guinness Sports Record Book, it was caught by Peter Christian in Norfolk, England on January 9th, 1977.
What's my recommendation for bagging a buck this year? Well, I would talk to the hunters who got the biggest bucks in the past because you can't argue with success. Nancy Gilpin, you are the woman bow hunter, 1984, with a 10-point buck. What's the secret to success?
I think in bow hunting, being as scent-free as possible.
So,
And getting out there.
as scent-free, so you're really concerned about what your clothes smell like, and
They're not supposed to smell.
they aren't, so you don't
No.
use any perfume or anything?
No, no hairspray, no makeup, no anything.
I'll be darned. That's
Au
the secret to-
naturel.
All natural. I won't even pursue that one anymore. But Nancy, that sounds like some good advice. A lot of bow hunters believe in that. What about you, Larry? You got the top buck for a man
Well,
on our big buck night.
I'd say practice your shooting, and you got to have a little luck.
Do you worry about the
Besides that-
scent?
Oh, yes. Of course, an elevated tree stand helps a little bit.
You prefer hunting from a
Yes,
tree
I
stand?
do.
Well, Larry got the biggest buck, 16-point with a bow. And here on Big Buck Night is a guy, I don't know, you've never even deer hunted before, and you got the biggest buck with a muzzle loader.
I read a lot.
You read a lot. Okay, from all your reading, how do you get the big ones?
Well, don't give up and think that there's no deer out there, because I was about ready to say, let's go have some coffee, and I said, well, stick around 15 more minutes. So don't give up when it looks bad.
Keep your nose to the grindstone.
There you
Good.
go.
That's Mike Andrews with an 8-pointer, but it's the biggest one for muzzleloading. Now, with a handgun. Handgun hunting is a little bit different than hunting with a gun or a bow.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of practice and know what you got to place a shot.
Okay. Well, Ken Turner, you're from Fostoria, and you use a 357,
All right.
and you practice a lot before the season?
Yeah, I practiced quite a bit. I went through about 4 boxes of shells easy.
And you got it so you could squeeze it off and hit
Yes.
the target? That is very important advice
Thank you.
for anybody. Now, Charlotte White, nobody can argue with Charlotte. She got the largest firearm-taken deer by a woman on our Big Buck Night, and that's a 10-pointer.
Yes,
You've hunted for, listen to these credentials, 33 years and your 21st deer.
that's right.
Lay it on me, Charlotte.
Be still.
Quiet.
Real quiet. Know your signs. Know the animal you're hunting.
So
And
you
be a
hunt,
good shot.
now you hunt specifically for an animal? You don't just sit out in the woods where there are a lot of deer?
Well, I like to hunt for the bucks. Pass up the does.
I tell you, there's a lot of gentlemen and ladies and anybody, if they want to know about hunting. We're talking to a woman who has 33 years of hunting with 21 deer. Congratulations. Ben Babcock, come on in here, Ben. You have an 8-pointer that has tall tines, 12 inches tall, big base on the antlers. You went to the UP, but you didn't want to go. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah, I was coaxed into going, so I said, well, I'll try it 1 year. So I
And-
think I'm dedicated.
But you've shot more than 20 bucks. You're almost as good as Charlotte.
Almost.
But not-
I'll never make that.
Now, what is your recommendation for?
Lots of patience, and when you think they're not around, they are there.
So keep your eye
Keep
peeled.
your eye peeled all the time.
You ever snooze in the blind?
Never. I have never slept in the woods.
Oh.
Never.
Maybe I've had ones walk by me like this. Thanks, Ben. Brian Shupeck from Shupeck Sporting Goods. Now, you got this on Ted Nugent's farm.
Right.
Okay, just say from now on you can't hunt on Ted Nugent's farm
I'm
anymore.
banded for life.
I'm sure you are. He took the big daddy off of his farm. What is your recommendation? You've taken a lot of deer in your years of hunting, 9 out of 10.
Well, the biggest thing I'd say is get out of bed and get out there and get hunting.
Just stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, and do it.
Yep.
What about bad weather?
Hunting it.
Hunt in it?
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's move on in. It's Brian Schupeck from Jackson. He's got the one with the widest spread that we've seen. The good Reverend Bill Smith from Dundee has the second largest buck here on Big Buck Night, 21 points. But again, Bill, 10 years of hunting, the first buck you saw, first buck you shot at. Tell me about it.
Well, you have to be where they are,
Yeah?
and you have to be, I think, patient.
What's been the
Extremely
problem?
patient.
What's been the problem the other 9 years?
I think I watch too much for the does and not looking for the bucks. I think they come through at the same time, and you can be fascinated by the does, and the bucks can walk by.
You get distracted out in the deer blind, but
Yes.
I bet you like to watch squirrels and birds
I
and all
do.
that.
I love to watch
Hey,
them.
there's a lot of people who enjoy the same thing you do, but that's great. The second largest buck. Now let's get to the big daddy, John West. Come on up here, John. Humble John, who's taken his share of deer 15 feet away.
Yep.
What is the secret?
Get out there and scout early, way before season.
Were you hunting for this deer?
Put in your time. Yep. I had my sights set on him, and by golly, opening morning, he walked right into him.
You saw this deer before?
Not, I seen his tracks, and
Big
I knew where he
tracks?
was hanging, and he was there at the same time I was, right time, you know.
Well, this is a 37-pointer with a 25.6-inch spread, a huge deer, and you say scout early if you want the big boys?
Yep.
Okay, and you've taken, in 10 years of hunting, you've got 5 bucks.
Yep.
Anything close to this before?
No.
No, nothing. Hey, that's a great one. We want to see you on Big Buck Night next year and see how try his advice, see how it pans out. And now we have a guy here. Come here. Ellis Wygant from Williamston. He has some advice. None of you have ever hunted where he hunts. Tell us. Let's run through this again. Where's your favorite deer hunting spot? How many years of hunting?
Jill's School of Dance was my favorite spot, and I've hunted for 25 years.
25 years. He never got a deer in the woods. He was walking down in Williamston and at Jill's School of Dance.
Yep.
Inside Jill's School of Dance.
Yep.
There was this boy, a 10-pointer. Now, given 25 years of hunting and his only deer he shot in a dance school, we're going to take this into account, but what's your advice for deer hunters?
Be in the right place at the right time.
It had to be. All right. Thank you very much. That's the best advice we can come up with these buck hunters who were all award winners in 1984, and that's advice worth listening to. Maybe you'll be lucky this year and bag a big buck and qualify for a TV appearance on Big Buck Night 1985. That's December 5th. It's a 1-hour special at 8 p.m. Don't miss it. If you get a buck 10 points or better, you'll be in the running. And now let's take a look at upcoming events on our outdoor calendar.
There's a handgun metallic silhouette shoot this Saturday and Sunday at the Looking Glass River Sportsman's Club in Langsburg. Also this Sunday, muzzleloaders can participate in a turkey shoot sponsored by the River Valley Muzzleloaders in Edwardsburg. And it's really not too early to start making plans for Fred Trost Outdoor Fair at Houghton Lake next June 27th through the 29th. This will be even bigger than last year's fair with a lot of events and seminars for the fisherman and hunter. It's something you should put on your vacation schedule now. If you missed a phone number, you can get it by calling the Michigan Travel Bureau toll-free at 1-800-292-2520. And that's a look at this week's Michigan Outdoors calendar.
Some people might think this is wild meat.
Oh.
I guess it could be considered that. It
You-
is venison, but believe me, it doesn't taste wild.
It's all gone. Wild taste, it's all gone.
In fact, I'll tell you, for an endorsement for the flavor of this, our TV crew has already been into it. And they voted this, took a vote, said this is the best recipe
that's
of the year.
right.
Because it really doesn't taste like a wild flavor.
No.
Kath, what is the secret? Was it the cooking?
The trimming in the beginning. Yep, you got to get all the fat and fell off. That's where it's all at, right there.
Those little membranes
That's right.
and connective tissues have got to go because
That's where
what
all the wild taste is, right in there.
you've trimmed it off on this piece of
That's
round.
Round, right. Make a little bowl of aluminum foil because you're going to add a lot of liquid to it. You're going to add a half a cup of water. And it's going to make it like a barbecue sauce. Garlic powder, we want a tablespoon. I wanted a tablespoon, but I got a little bit more.
Hey, close enough.
Yeah.
Dangerous to pour that over the bowl.
Yes,
You're
it
going to
is.
mix it in.
Some minced onion, it's
Mhm.
dried onion. Paprika, going to give it a little bit of color and a different taste.
Mm-hmm.
1 tablespoon of that. Cayenne pepper.
Mmm.
Yep, 1 tablespoon of that.
That I can taste in here.
Yeah,
the
you can
hot
taste
pepper.
that. some sherry.
How much?
We want a shot.
Just sort of a glug?
Yeah, 1 glug.
What about brandy?
Brandy, we want 2 shots.
2 shots, 1?
1, yep.
Come on,
2.
Kath. There we go.
He shorted that last shot.
Yeah, you did.
And a quart of ketchup. Like I said, it's making a great barbecue sauce.
Mm-hmm.
You use on anything. Salt, we want a tablespoon of salt. And pepper. Other than just your red pepper, we want black pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And a cup of brown sugar.
To
Just gives a
sweeten it
little
up.
sweet taste, yeah.
Yeah, this is like the brown sugar and the ketchup are what make it different from a jerky type of marinade.
Right, crumbled bay leaf.
Can you taste the bay leaf, Bob?
No, yeah, fat chance. Huh?
Liquid smoke, we want 2 teaspoons. You taste that liquid smoke just a little bit.
Yeah, you can.
This what surprised me is a half a cup Worcestershire sauce.
Of what?
Worcestershire.
Worcestershire.
You just call it Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows how to pronounce that. So you stir this up.
Right, you could pour this over the meat. Now,
Quite-
that's why you wanted your bowl up there around that meat pretty good. And then just fold it in. Keep folding so that it doesn't squeeze out the edges there.
Tightly? Do you wrap
Yeah,
it?
so you want it wrapped real tight.
Do you put
Yep.
more layers of foil than that?
I do, yes. Yep.
But here it is. I'll tell you, it doesn't have the barbecue sauce coating on it.
No, because
At
it
all.
was wrapped tight and cooked high at first, 500 degrees for 2 hours.
And look how it falls apart. It just flakes apart almost like a fillet of fish. Even if you don't cut the meat across the grain, here's some longer filaments, and they come right apart, just like that. Try that, Bob. See if those long filaments are tough and chewy.
Oh, hey, I'm sure they'll be fine. You know, it's not like it has a barbecue coating on it. It's like the barbecue sauce went through the meat, because the meat is spicy. I'll defy anyone to take this recipe and if they've trimmed the meat up and find one speck of venison taste. In fact, I think you could put a 10-year-old rocking chair buck in this recipe and it'd be great.
This is a venison taste.
Well, not the wild taste
It
people
is.
associate with venison, though.
This tastes more like beef, though, than any other
Oh,
recipe
absolutely.
we've done. But the trick is in the trimming.
That's
But-
where it's all at.
It is a great recipe, though, Bob. Why don't you tell the folks where they can get a copy?
This recipe for outlaw venison is legal in every sense of the word and is your ticket to a great venison dinner. It's in this brand new Deer Hunters edition of Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest. For your free copy, write to us at Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest, P.O. Box 6001, East Lansing, Michigan, 48823.
How many years of hunting?
Jill's School of Dance was my favorite spot, and I've hunted for 25 years.
25 years. He never got a deer in the woods. He was walking down in Williamston, and at Jill's School of Dance,
Yep.
inside Jill's School of Dance,
Yep.
there was this boy, a 10-pointer. Now, given 25 years of hunting and his only deer he shot in a dance school, we're going to take this into account, but what's your advice for deer hunters?
Be in the right place at the right time.
It had to be. All right. Thank you very much. That's the best advice we can come up with these buck hunters who were all award winners in 1984, and that's advice worth listening to.